Hello and welcome. You are listening to the very first show that has aired on channel 1138 in the year of 2018. Happy New Year, everybody. This is the Backyard Watch Podcast on its 15th episode. What a milestone. 15 episodes. Holy cow. I just spin on my computer. Okay. I am your host, Jeffrey White, here again for another day of jolly vibes and hype, and I would like to introduce my co-host of the Backyard Watch Podcast. Him and I have made tag team appearances on Star Wars Wastelands Trivia. He loves video games, he loves Star Wars, he basically knows it all. It's my good friend, Mr. Eric Wall Jr. Hello, Eric.
Hi. I've gotten worse. In like the 2 seconds that has just like transpired, I've gotten increasingly worse.
What do you mean by that? The audience doesn't really know how you're doing. How are you doing?
That's true. Okay, so I was in a parade today from 6 a.m. to 5 a.m. or 5 a.m.
Oh
5
my
p.m.
God.
I went backwards in
23
time.
hours. Oh.
It's the Mummers Parade. It's a big festival in Philadelphia. It's one of the oldest running festivals in the U.S. That's about it.
And so, what was your part in? Did you walk in the parade or something?
I walked in the parade. I danced.
Ooh.
As it is.
I don't know. Do you have bad dancing skills, Eric?
Oh, it's fine.
Well, he's gonna be my co-host for today's jolly episode. And today, before I get to the topic, I'm going to introduce our special guest that we have on today. He is such a jolly fella, let me tell you. He is the co-host of the Intergalactic Peace Coalition podcast and Fandom Fraternity, both great shows that air on channel 1138. And he was also a gracious host for #JediPod, which occurred a couple weeks ago when Star Wars The Last Jedi was released. It's been an honor for me to stay at his living quarters, and I'm glad to have him on the show today. It's Mr. Zach Arnold. How are you doing, Zach?
You gave me quite the introduction there. Thank you.
My goal is to be better than Sage at intros.
Lots of pomp and circumstance. I feel so important. Like when I went to my college graduation while you were in town, they introduced the keynote speaker, and he was like this famous producer guy that I'd never heard of before, but he produced 7 Super Bowl commercials. And they've been talking about the other productions that he's involved in and all the stuff that he does in the community and all this stuff. And he just had this really, really long introduction. And then his keynote speech felt shorter than his introduction. Like, they gave him all this pomp and circumstance to introduce him for the commencement address. And then he gets up there and he gives like maybe a 10-minute speech or something. Like, he was very short and to the point, which I appreciated. But you know, hearing that kind of introduction, he did this. And he was on JediPod and he's on this show. Like, it makes me feel like a celebrity almost.
To be fair, dude, I didn't even mention that you just got your bachelor's degree, and that that shows how impressive accomplishments you have done.
Well, I just work hard, man. That's all there is to it. Anybody that's got a hard work ethic's going to end up in the same place as me eventually.
So Zach, I'm curious about something. So you said the keynote was about 10 minutes. How long was the intro?
I don't know, but it felt longer than that. That's the thing. That's what it felt like. Like, one of them felt really, really long. The other one felt really, really short, and they just didn't mesh the way I thought they were going to. So it was quite an experience.
Well, I'm glad to have you on the show, and thank you for coming on. And yeah, you're listening to Backyard Watch Podcast, airing live on the channel 1138 Mixlr, or you're also listening to this on our archive, which is on youtube.com/c/channel 1138 video. That's the channel 1138 YouTube channel where all of our archive episodes go. And what a super jolly thing. Our topic today is, as I mentioned earlier, this is the very first show of 2018 for channel 1138. It's going to be a big year. So it's very fitting on this New Year's Day to look back at the previous year. You know, we've kind of done that through Star Wars. What we did last week is that we looked at how Star Wars was with Star Wars Gaming and The Last Jedi. And we will talk about those today as well. But this is more of a general 2017 year in review of all geeky things, how we have been doing with our lives. Jeff, remember, 2017 is the year that the Backyard Watch podcast began. You know, Eric and I started this. I believe it was late April of 2017. No, or maybe it was May. I don't know. Eric will correct me on this later.
It's April because it was around the time of Celebration.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yep.
But this is more of a general year in review, and before we start diving into specific subjects about it, just wanted to get everyone's thoughts. What did you think of 2017? Whether it's personally or the things you like, or for geekiness, or for Star Wars, or whatever. What are your overall impressions of 2017?
Ooh, boy, that's a good question.
Go ahead, Zach.
Yeah, I was very, very excited for 2017 because I knew that was the year I was expected to graduate. And so I had a lot of focus, and I had a lot of really awesome people supporting me, people here on the channel, people in my community, people in my classrooms. I had a lot of really awesome professors. And so, you know, everything just seemed to fall into place really, really well. I had a really cool job that I got to work over the summer. I got to work with the WNBA. You know, we had Jedi Pod here at the end of the year. That was another thing I was really looking forward to, doing a lot of prep on, and there was a lot of hype surrounding that. If you'll excuse me for borrowing your word, but there was a lot of hype and a lot of excitement surrounding, you know, people making the trip and everybody kind of assembling into one place for one good old time. And you know, the preparations for that started in the summer or something like that.
Oh wow,
you know?
That's deep preparation.
Yeah, man. Like, we were talking about who's going to be coming, who's not going to be coming, trying to lock down, you know, who to expect and how to arrange the sleeping arrangements. And, you know, I was already saving up for buying of the tickets and things like that. And, you know, there was just a lot of anticipation. And I think the coolest part about 2017 was a lot of that anticipation paid off. There were some really awesome movies. Some of them we're going to get to talk about. There were some really awesome TV shows. Some of them I don't know if we're going to get to talk about or not.
I'm
but
sure
I mean,
we will.
But I mean, Stranger Things 2 was pretty amazing. So
I think it was better than Stranger Things season 1, honestly.
That's a bold statement. That's a really bold. That's a really bold statement. But there were just a lot of really good things about 2017. There were some not so great things, but all in all, I feel like the good outweighed the bad. So I enjoyed 2017.
Nice. Eric Wall Jr., what are your overall impressions of 2017?
Nah. That one was for Zach. It's fine. I mean,
because of the meme.
Yeah.
I also
became. I love that meme.
I also became a meme in 2017. Apparently,
Zach, you're stepping up your meme game, buddy.
I actually got turned into 2, but the second one hasn't caught on as much. So
unforgivable.
That one.
I do like Ma better. Honestly,
the mad one is my favorite. So
because you look so happy, and then
the word
it's
meh
just meh. Yeah. There's no reason for that part.
It's ironic.
Yeah, but I don't know. I liked a good portion of the movies. I was gonna say a lot, but then I'm like, in comparison, I kind of did like 2016 and 2016 and 2015's movies better. Like 2015, we had movies like Mad Max and Straight Outta Compton come out, and then in 2016, even though a lot of people don't think this, but I do, I think that Rogue One's better than Force Awakens, and that was like my favorite movie of last year. Of 2016.
Oh no.
I'm like, wait a minute.
I gotta say 2017 is last year now. It's gonna be weird, dude.
No. My brain has to like reconnect.
Oh man. But yeah, there's some good stuff, Eric. My overall impressions, a little bit disappointing, honestly, both personally and with the entertainment I like, especially when it comes to video games. Now, there were some amazing video games. It would be a great year for games if you owned a Nintendo Switch, because that came out.
Yes.
It came out in 2017. But I do not
Or
own
wanted
one.
to just play Horizon Zero Dawn for the entire.
Yeah, Horizon. Yeah, there's some good stuff this year. Horizon Zero Dawn, Crash Bandicoot being remastered. Holy cow! But there were a couple of disappointments for me. One of which was Mass Effect Andromeda, which I had high hopes for, but it was ultimately disappointing, and they're not making any more expansions or anything. They're doing nothing with the IP anymore, which sucks. And then Star Wars Battlefront 2. A game I thought they were going to knock out of the park. Like, yeah, it's Star Wars. Boom, everyone's going to love it. It's the only Star Wars game of the year. But then it got all the backlash and then all the controversies and the loot boxes. And Eric and I really, really hate it. We really don't like loot boxes. So that was a bit disappointing. I did play some Battlefront 2 yesterday. I had some fun at it. It wasn't all bad. But other than that, there was some good...
Sorry.
No, Eric, I do hear you're typing.
I know. I'm checking out the Battlefront Reddit because I check it like almost every day.
Oh, that's a bad idea, buddy.
To see if anything happens.
But there were some good stuff as well with films, like Spider-Man being back in the film. He has a film now, and it was really good. And there was... there were some Marvel movies that I thought knocked out of the park: Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, Thor Ragnarok, etc.
We got a total of like 6 comic movies this year, didn't we?
Oh man.
Because we got
Kingsman.
Is Kingsman a comic?
Yeah, Kingsman's
I
a
thought it
comic.
was a novel.
No, it's a graphic novel.
Okay.
It's the Secret Service by Mark Millar.
I need to see that movie.
I do too. I love the first Kingsman.
That's another thing. I really hate that movie. I hate the second one. First one's amazing.
The first one was beautiful.
And then the second one is like, hey, remember what we did in the first one? Here goes the second one.
Oh, here it goes again.
It's sequelitis at its finest.
Oh, that's disappointing.
Yeah.
I still want to see it. I'll Redbox it. I'll borrow it for $1.50.
Or, pirate it.
Something about other things about me personally, like marching band this year was a bit disappointing for myself due to a variety of reasons. But but the fall semester was a little rough, but it got better overall as I got more hyped for #JediPod and going to Texas, visiting Zach and the crew, visiting everyone. This winter break has been the highlight for me. I doing JediPod, seeing Star Wars: The Last Jedi 4 times with these folks was an incredible experience. And then soon after, going to a bowl game, where both marching bands came, and we had such a fun time, and hanging out with friends, hanging out in San Francisco. That was a really cool trip. So, there were some disappointments from this year for sure, but I think overall the positives outweigh the negatives. Like, for example, last summer, summer 2017, for the first time ever, I was in a volunteer wind ensemble. I was in a local summer winds group, and we played for the local community often, and we did that throughout the summer. Even though I got my wisdom teeth done during that summer and I couldn't play for 2 of the concerts, it was still very transformative and a lot of fun to continue playing music, and it's just a warm feeling for me. And yeah, it's been a tumultuous year, but it's been a lot of fun. All right, so just want to remind you all at the end of the podcast, before we do our hype factor, and apologies to the co-hosts here, I literally just told you guys about this 10 minutes ago, but we will be giving the year of 2017 a rating out of 10. You think you've been missing that ratings fix after Fandom Fraternity's been on hiatus? Well, we got you covered here on the Back Row Watch podcast.
Temporary hiatus. We'll be back soon.
We got your rating fix covered here, and we'll be giving a rating out of 10 for the year 2017. So let's dive into specific subjects now. Our first one, it will be about what this channel is all about, what we all love and breathe and live, and that is Star Wars. been a pretty crazy year for Star Wars, I'd say. And so we're going to start talking about Star Wars gaming. And this has been really interesting this year. Before October 2017, we were kind of hopeful that there would be games coming out like, 2018, game from Visceral Games. 2019, game from Respawn Entertainment. And it's like, Battlefront 2 later this year. Holy cow, what a time to be alive. And then, reality slapped us in the face. And the reality of a bad business model and EA being EA is what led to the closure of Visceral Games. So, as a consequence, we don't know what we're going to get with Star Wars gaming in 2018, at least officially. And then EA bought Respawn Entertainment later that year. And then, well, as I mentioned earlier, Star Wars Battlefront 2, having those controversial loot boxes and everyone hating on him and lower bad sales for the game compared to the 2015 Battlefront, and it was pretty much a disappointment. It got low reviews, and we've talked about this before. There's some good stuff in the game. There's some good Star Wars stuff, but unfortunately, the negatives outweigh the positives when it comes to the reactions from the community. So I'm going to put this one to you, Eric Wall. What are your thoughts about what's happened with Star Wars gaming and the state of it, and what you think's, what's going to happen in the future? Summarize how gaming was in 2017 for Star Wars.
EA is the worst company in the history of the world. All right, let's talk about this real quick. All right, Disney, big company. EA, money-hungry bastards that just so happen to run a video game company, decide, hey, we're going to buy the Star Wars license for 10 years? Or is it like 8?
10 years. It goes till 2023.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Okay, that's why I thought it was like a weird number. I think they should just take the license away because they've made 2 console and PC games, okay? And then they also made how many mobile games? Like 5, right?
What do you mean?
EA, they run the mobile games division as well.
For Star Wars
Galaxy,
or Marvel?
For Star Wars.
Oh, okay. Yeah, they released Galaxy of Heroes, and then I think they have another game. I forgot what it was called.
I think they did Uprising as well, and also Commander, and what the hell's the other thing that's kind of like Balloon Tower Defense, and I think that's also an EA property. Either way, I don't like them. I think they're the worst company ever. I think that company's going to go under very soon. And I hope it does.
I don't think EA's going to go under because they have enough they have enough titles that are popular enough that are making them money. I think something will happen where they will lose the rights to Star Wars games. Like something else is going to happen that people will get really mad at, and like I don't know. It remains to be seen how bad that Battlefront sales were in the fiscal year 2018, which ends at the end of March. I don't know. Who knows? Maybe sales were pretty low in November, but maybe they ticked up because of Christmas and Last Jedi hype and everything. But I don't know. I definitely hope there's a change. What Marvel's doing with video games, what they're doing really well, is that they're shopping it to multiple publishers. We have a Spider-Man game coming out from Sony. We have an Avengers game coming out and a Guardians of the Galaxy game from Square Enix. And there's a whole bunch of mobile games being made, a lot of popular titles. And there's a lot of people trying different things with the IP. We're not seeing that as much with Star Wars, other than the Battlefronts, the mobile games, and the Lego games. I don't know. I personally hope there will be Lego Star Wars: The Last Jedi coming out this summer. That would be awesome. But yeah, it's pretty tumultuous time for Star Wars gaming. Eric, do you have any more thoughts about this before we move on?
No, I refuse.
But we may get to more predictions when we start looking forward to 2018. But for the time being, let's move on to the next subject. It is still on Star Wars, and this will be right more up Zach's wheelhouse. And this is...
Yeah, I bought Battlefront for both gaming systems. I've only played it on the Xbox for a while.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, I just don't have as much to contribute because I haven't had as much time to play this stuff.
I will say this, a cool thing
–
when I visited Zach was when me and the Star Wars Underworld guys, we were playing the arcade mode of Battlefront 2. Zach's just like, I rarely play this game, and here we are just playing arcade mode. It was so jolly.
It was fun.
I hate arcade. I don't think I've ever actually talked about this on Backyard Watch. I hate arcade mode.
Why?
Only reason I got the 48 stars. It's the only reason why I don't.
That's the maximum amount of stars that you can get for everything.
So that you can get Han Solo with a vest and a beard. Or rather, the Aftermath trilogy Han Solo.
Otherwise known as Smuggler Han Solo, right? I think that's what's the official name.
Yeah, that is the official name. I don't like that name.
I remember
Aftermath.
I remember Eric saying, I remember you were telling me, dude, I just got all the arcade stars. What have I done?
Yeah, I was just like, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to play this anymore.
But
doesn't arcade mode also have a separate section that's more like instant action where you can choose the different?
That's in the first Battlefront. I know that for sure. But
I've got it in the second one also.
It's not. Listen, I'm like the leading expert on arcade mode. It's not like instant action.
There's a version though where I could choose which side I wanted to be, where I could choose what planet I wanted to play on.
It felt what you're talking about.
Well, the thing is, it's not. Okay, so the things that it's just like I think 3 game modes, and they're not even game modes that are really in the base game. They're just arcade mode type of game modes.
Isn't that what we were talking about, though?
Mm-hmm. Well, instant action was just like all the game modes, but against AI.
Yeah, that's basically what I played. I wasn't playing anybody online when I played those modes. Not that I could tell.
Yeah,
I do know what you mean, Zach. It's kind of like how Rocket League works, where you're just playing against the AI. Like if you're playing offline.
Kind of. Rocket League has a few more mods you can choose as far as, the ball size, the gravity speed, your boost speed, et cetera, et cetera. There weren't as many of those, but I do vividly recall being able to choose what planet I wanted to play on, and it reminded me a lot of the Battlefront 2 from the PS2, where you could choose what planets you wanted to play on and in what order, and then you actually go and play those in a 150 on 150 or something like that.
Oh, man, dude. Let me tell you,
it reminded me a lot.
That was my childhood. PS2 version of the old Battlefront 2, just playing instant action. I mean, granted, it's not, the scale isn't as big as the PC version, but still, it was, oh man, that was my childhood, man. That was awesome.
I love 64-player Battlefront 2. It's the best. I wish that they would actually put it in the real EA game.
Very true. Any more thoughts about gaming?
No. Hold up.
That's about the only thought I'm able to provide that's even
Star Wars gaming?
Somewhat coherent.
Yes, Eric?
Wait until the actual video game section. My bad. Yeah, let's go to the next thing.
Okay, so the next one is the other big Star Wars thing of the year. You know it, you love it, you love fighting and arguing about it. It is
Star Wars Rebels Season 4.
I'm still watching Season 2 right now, and I just got the Blu-ray for Season 3. And
yeah, I'm just waiting for the dog to stop barking for like a couple seconds.
Hashtag Barkwatch.
You never know what you're gonna get on this show. Sometimes the dog just hears our commentary and he's like, "I got something to say about that."
Bork. Yes.
Bork. Let's talk about The Last Jedi, y'all. Big movie. We did an entire event on it with Jedi Pod for this movie, and all of us have seen it, and everyone has had conflicting opinions on it. It's been some crazy stuff, y'all.
This could be a really long segment.
Well, it's all right. I think that's fine.
Okay.
I mean, you should have seen Chris, who was on last week's show. We were just like yabbering about it. So we were just talking about it.
Oh man.
All right.
Well,
let's
Jeff,
start with first.
I think you know my opinions on it for the most part, Jeff. But I will say I find it to be an acquired taste. I have seen it 4 times now. I only saw it 3 times while you guys were in town, but then I saw it a 4th time with my aunt not too long ago. And the 4th time resonated with me better than any of the other previous times. So I feel like it's one of those ones that as you come to study the details and some of the nuances of it, you come to appreciate it a little bit more. But there are still some technical aspects that I find, if you'll pardon the reference to my own meme, I find it rather unforgivable.
I like it better than The Force Awakens.
I know, Eric, we heard some of your opinion last week, but do you have any more thoughts about it?
Better than The Force Awakens.
I
don't like The Force Awakens. Only reason I don't like The Force Awakens is... Okay, so The Force Awakens, first off, had the exact opposite effect on me than The Last Jedi did. The more that I think of The Force Awakens, the more I don't like The Force Awakens. But the more that I think of The Last Jedi, the more I like The Last Jedi.
Interesting.
I would say that Last Jedi is probably a little... It's a little higher on my list. Like, the bottom 4 for my list is Force Awakens, Jedi, 2, and then 1.
Personally, I'm not a fan of ranking these things. Not unless Sage asks me to do it for Wastelands. You know, I don't like being like, oh, I think this is better than this and worse than this. You know, I think that's just arbitrary and just
but then the ratings numbers that we do on Fandom Fraternity also kind of help us gauge what we think about each movie without even having to do a direct comparison. Like, I know for a fact that I'm not going to give The Phantom Menace a 10 out of 10, but I did give that to The Empire Strikes Back. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I didn't. There are some flaws in The Empire Strikes Back, but I still love that movie. That's still definitively the best Star Wars movie.
Easily.
I think the problem with how people think of The Last Jedi is... part of it is, that you think it's going to be like The Empire Strikes Back, or it's going to be like a certain movie, or it'll do better than it. Ooh, how's it going to do better? And I think a lot of it is is people's different expectations, that they expect the result of this to be this, or something like that. Like, they expect certain things to happen, but when they don't happen, or they happen in a different way, it kind of freaks them out. It's why I didn't really have expectations when it comes to the big stuff from Force Awakens. Stuff like, who is Rey, who is Snoke, who are all these characters. And I know a lot of people are a little are disappointed and peeved that we didn't get resolution for a lot of this stuff. But
I think one of my favorite Force Awakens speculations was, is Finn related to Lando? I thought that was the most hilarious and stupidest comparison I've ever heard. I'm like, oh my God, how racist can you get? Just because you see a black guy on the screen, you automatically think he's related to the black guy from the original trilogy. Wow.
That's horrifying.
Like, I don't even understand that, to be completely honest. I think that's part of, that's almost the same kind of stereotyping that they're making with Rey, to be honest. Like, oh, she has to be a Skywalker. Look at her. She carries the Skywalker lightsaber. She has the Force, and she's white. Well, what? Like, excuse me, where did you get this? How is that?
Finn carried the Skywalker lightsaber. That doesn't mean he's a Skywalker.
Right. And just because the pigment of his skin is a little bit darker than some of the other people, that doesn't mean that he's a long-lost relative of Lando Calrissian. And if they actually put that in Episode 9, I'm honestly going to be pissed off. Just give me somebody that is their own character. I'm completely fine with Rey being her own character. It would have been interesting to see how they try and integrate her into the Skywalker/Solo clan or whatever. But to have her as her own person just gives her a lot more depth of character. It means that the Force resonates in people outside of the Skywalker family. It just means that you can harness that power no matter what your lineage is. And that honestly gives a lot more hope to people than someone who doesn't have the last name Skywalker. That gives hope to me that, I'm following my own story. I am doing my own thing. I am surpassing my own expectations. I am reaching my own achievements. And I don't need a family lineage to be the reason or the source for my success. That is exactly what we're getting in Rey's character now, because we don't have an explanation as to her parentage, to her line. We're focusing on her here and now, and we're focusing on her future, which I think is the exact direction they need to be taking her character.
I honestly feel the same way about that. I hear a lot of people, some people, complain about the Rey not being anybody thing. And, like, everyone just tries to play it off that Kylo Ren's just, just lying to her. But personally, I think it is a bold move to, like, turn away from, like, the main part of the story. Again, this is why I kind of like The Last Jedi a little bit more than I originally did, regardless of how they treated Snoke and Phasma and crate scenes.
Phasma got underutilized. I got very excited when I saw her fighting Finn in the trailers, and I thought, oh, this is going to be like a culmination of her character. Mm-hmm. We're gonna see them, going head to head after this back and forth cat and mouse tension with different cutscenes on either side, looking at either perspective. Yeah. But no, they just happened to meet up during the third act of the film, and they just had to do their, cliche, stereotypical fight scene. Like, that was, honestly, I felt like that was a disrespect to Gwendolyn Christie, because she is a very talented actress.
I think that she'll return. Rian Johnson has basically hinted that she may return. It's more that it's J.J. Abrams that has to choose if she returns or not.
Well, and if they do, they'll have to keep it a secret, because that would be kind of a big reveal. Everybody expects her dead, so she can't exactly go on tour. She can't exactly go to D23 and stuff like that, because that would kind of tip the scales to letting people know that Phasma's returning. So
unless they just put it in a trailer or something.
I mean, I think... Sorry. There are two main issues with The Last Jedi that I still have, and I love the film now. I thoroughly enjoyed it. The first time I watched it, I was shell-shocked. I'm like, what is this? I have no words. But now that I understand its flaws, there's still a couple that ring out to me, and one of them is the number one, the pacing is too quick at times. There are some big moments that occur in this film, and they don't have the entire impact either, because it's a fake out. That there's Chris's favorite word, fake out, or it just happens too fast. Like too many big things happening, bam, 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 in 1 minute. And the other problem, in my opinion, is that I believe there are too many characters. Like, there were a couple of characters, we talked about with Phasma that were a little disappointing, but like you could tell, Maz Kanata was only in the movie just as an obligation, just as a sniff, she's still alive, yay, and then now she's gone. There are some characters that really didn't get their due time, and I thought that was, that was something we were kind of alluding to, where it doesn't have enough time to shine for these characters. Unlike The Force Awakens, where you had attention towards Finn, Rey, and Poe. Here we didn't have as much payoff. I mean, for Luke, I think definitely there's a lot of good stuff for Luke in the film, and some stuff for Rey. But But you guys know what I mean? Have any more thoughts about that?
There was a lot of character development for most of the people that I feel deserved it. I will agree that Luke was probably the strongest aspect. You've also got to give proper screen time to new characters. So characters like Rose, you can't introduce her and then not do anything with her in the movie. So to pair her up with somebody who's already had a movie the way Finn has, I felt like was a really strong directorial decision, because now you have an opportunity for somebody that you know and appreciate to play off of somebody new and get to see what the chemistry looks like between those two characters. And it gives the new character ample screen time because you're showing one of the other primary characters right along with her. I'll still complain about Phasma, but I'm probably just going to have to get used to the fact that she's a secondary or tertiary character, and she'll just have to embrace that role in the universe and make the most of what few limited lines she actually ends up with.
Something I don't mind the new characters. Okay, I mind Holdo a little bit, but what I was disappointed at in that, like, you could tell there were opportunities for other characters, for old Star Wars characters to have their time that were replaced by new characters. And I think figure number one is Holdo, where like you could have had Admiral Akbar be in that spot, you know, if they didn't, spoiler alert, you know, if they didn't kill him off. And
I hate that so much.
I think, you know, the Holdo thing, it paid off well in the end, but either way, you know, there was failure across that. The Resistance failed either way, you know, showing that the whole Poe versus Holdo thing was kind of pointless in the end.
Yeah, it's the moral of the story, that failure kind of like brings us towards greatness, and that's something that Yoda even points out at one point.
But I don't know, it's just really weird that whole sequence of events where it's like you're led to think, okay, Poe's being the heroic rebel here, and Holdo's the bad person who isn't doing anything, and they make it look like that, you know, because of a couple of bad plot devices, and then all of a sudden, you know, like Leia just stuns Poe. I thought that was a weird sequence of events, considering a major part of the movie was the Resistance running away from the First Order.
You know, it's another thing that I don't like. And somebody, I'm not going to name names, but somebody on Channel 1138 says that this character really doesn't have like a backstory or whatever. That, like, oh, it was basically like fan hype, really. And that's Snoke. And Snoke has been hinted at for like a while now. We have hints from Thrawn. We have hints from the Aftermath trilogy. We have questions from what's the Leia comic novel? The older Leia novel. Bloodline. Yeah, we have hints towards maybe Snoke is something else, and then they do nothing with it.
Because we still don't really know how Snoke corrupted Kylo Ren.
Yeah.
We just hear again in this movie, oh, Snoke took control of him. The darkness was in him. But we don't really know.
Yeah.
There was another potential character moment that was wasted. A wasted opportunity was the Master Codebreaker on Canso Bite.
Could have been Lando, which...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, which we, again, talked about last week.
I mean, I was okay with Rian Johnson's explanation. Like, are you saying the guy who was wearing the red palm bloom, and then they didn't actually get a chance to talk to him?
And then they all of a sudden randomly found DJ in the same cell as them.
Okay, so is your argument that the guy that they never met could have been Lando, or are you saying that DJ could have been Lando?
I'd say interchangeable.
I would agree to the first part. I think it would have been a really good cameo if Lando had been the master code breaker on Canto Bight that they never got a chance to meet. And then you go to DJ. But, meeting Lando and trying to convince him to do those things, the way that the story was going as far as, DJ now selling them out in order to cut a deal and that kind of thing, that's not Lando's character. He became a general in the rebellion. If he was brought back into the Resistance, he would be back in full force. He would not be the type of character that anybody's come to know as someone that's lying, two-faced, backstabbing. That's the old Lando. That's the Lando that we see in the animated form in Star Wars Rebels. That's not the Lando that we see in Episode 8. If he was the one that was having the lucky roll on Canto Bight and, they just pop Billy D. Williams in there for a couple minutes, I could totally see that as, like, a possible cameo. But having him play the role of DJ, I don't know if that's quite as interchangeable to me.
So, quick thing, do you guys think Lando will be in Episode 9?
Probably. He's probably one of the Outer Rim allies that they were talking about.
I can see that.
Yeah, because again, Bespin's in the Outer Rim. But when I said that he could be either or, I would say that if they failed to get the Master Codebreaker, they would just find Lando, and Lando would just be Lando, an ally, not a ally turned enemy.
Yeah, that would make some sense. So, I'm wondering, how did The Last Jedi revolve, like, in the overall aspect of 2017? How it affected the entire year? I'm wondering how it affected y'all's year. I mean, Zach will probably echo mine a little bit in that, like, everything of this year was leading up to The Last Jedi. The Last Jedi was the thing to look forward to at the end of the year. And, because of the Jedi Pod and the trip and everything. And so, like when I saw that first trailer back in the spring, like, I was so hyped for the movie. Like, I thought that was, like, the greatest trailer ever made. Like, oh, man, it got me super hyped for the movie. And I just riding the hype train till December, and I feel like it was something big to look forward to. So, Eric, how did it factor in when you look at 2017 as a whole? What do you think of The Last Jedi in comparison to everything that happened this year?
Again,
some of which we'll talk more about soon.
Nah, this is meh.
We're getting a lot of talk out of Eric tonight, aren't we?
Mm-hmm.
You can tell he marched in a big parade, huh?
Well, that's why you got me on, because I got plenty to say. Woohoo!
So what about you, Zach?
For me, I think I really caught the hype when I saw the trailer that was on Monday Night Football. I did like one of those live reaction videos where I was like, oh no, he didn't. Like, I got really excited when I saw some of the things that they showed in that trailer. The teaser didn't do quite as much for me because it was very vague and rather incomplete. And I was just like, yeah, okay, that's what a teaser is supposed to be. It did its job, whatever. But the movie trailer in the fall was really what kind of caught me on. Up until then, I had been more on just a movie and even a Marvel kick to a certain degree. Like, I saw a couple of really solid movies in the early spring, like Kong and Logan. And then the summertime rolls around and you see movies like Guardians and Spider-Man, and I even saw, Alien Covenant. So I was just on a movie hype. I was just enjoying movies for movies, and then I was just kind of assuming it's just going to continue to gradually get better. This movie's going to be really good. This movie's going to be really good. And then when December kicks around, it's going to be the best one of the year. Like, that was my anticipation. That was my hope. And after seeing literally my cap was when I saw A Long Time Ago in a Galaxy Far, Far Away. The cap of my excitement hit when I saw that in the theater with all you guys for the very first time. It was like, all the preparation, all the emotions, all the excitement was finally coming to a head in that moment. And then it goes to the opening crawl, and You realize what the opening crawl is saying. You realize where you are at what point in time and what's going on. And from there, everything just felt like it was spiraling out of control. Like
in a good way or a bad way?
In a bad way, in a terrible way. Oh my gosh, it was like this is what all my excitement's been about. This is what I've been building up for. This is what I have been, getting people excited about for months on end. This is what I have been telling people I'm going to be watching, 6 months ago. There was all of this stuff that I'd been building up, and then things just started to crash down on my spirit, and I was like, oh my gosh. And I don't think I've ever felt that way about the end of a year, and I don't think I've ever felt that way about the end of a movie. And I don't know, there were just a lot of things on my first impression of The Last Jedi that will resonate with me for probably all of 2018. Honestly, it stands a chance of affecting my impressions of Solo when it comes out in May. We've got such a quick turnaround that we're going straight out of Last Jedi and we're going right into Solo in May. And I'm worried, honestly, that the bitter taste that I got from my first time around with The Last Jedi is going to stick around into my first impression of Solo.
I would admit, when I watched my first viewing of The Last Jedi, which I had with you guys, I was really excited because there were so many crazy things that happened. I was overwhelmed by the end, but it wasn't really in a bad way. So when you all were, I was listening, I was with Zach and Chris, Ben, Dominic, everyone, and we were driving back to Zach's place to do our reactions podcast for SWU, and I think what shocked me the most was when I think I heard Ben say something like this was just reactionary. He was saying, was this the worst Star Wars movie I've ever seen? And that shocked me. I'm like, wow, you guys thought it was that bad, huh? I mean, obviously
to hear that from a super fan like Ben, that's a bold claim.
I was very intrigued that you guys had those first impressions. So I started thinking about it a little more, and I'm like, oh, okay, there are flaws in the movie. It is overwhelming. It's a little crazy.
It was really interesting because for a while we were talking about it, and then for a while we were like, let's wait until we're in front of a microphone.
That didn't work.
And we had to shift gears while we were driving because everybody was hungry, and I was like, okay, let's stop talking about the movie and we'll start talking about food. And we literally were just talking about food and where to get food for a solid half hour. And, there were just these little tidbits. Everybody had a one-liner. Everybody had a zinger that they were trying to get in there and try and sneak in there, even though we made a pact. We're not going to talk about the movie until we're in front of a microphone. But everybody kept wanting to voice their opinions. And I think that's honestly one of the better things about The Last Jedi is that everybody has an opinion. And it's a very, very strong opinion. It's not one of those films where people watch it and they're like, oh, it wasn't the best, it wasn't the worst, it was kind of in the middle. For a movie to fall into that is one of the most dangerous places a movie can be in cinema today, in my opinion. You look at stuff like the rebooted X-Men movies, First Class, Days of Future Past, Apocalypse. They don't get that kind of discussion. They have slipped into what I call cinematic obsolescence. They're not relevant. They don't get discussed the way Deadpool does. They don't get discussed the way Guardians of the Galaxy does. They don't get discussed the way Star Wars does. They are obsolete. They are there. They made some money while they were in theaters, and then that's it. Nobody's talking about it anymore. People will still be talking about The Last Jedi by this time next year. I guarantee it. And the fact that there's that many opinions, the fact that it's going to have that much discussion, conversation, that there's going to be that many memes about it, that there's going to be that many podcasts about it. The SWU is going to be taking it bit by bit, basically all of 2018. The fact that it's got that much to discuss is one of the better things about this movie. Whether you liked it or you hate it doesn't matter. The fact that it's still relevant, the fact that it's still being talked about means that it resonated with a very, very wide audience. Whether it was a good resonance or a bad resonance doesn't matter. It resonated, and that's important.
Yeah, it's going to be something. I am curious to see how we're going to take it on Backyard Watch, in the future. Like, how long after Solo will we go back to talking about The Last Jedi? It's going to be very interesting this summer.
It's true.
But I think it's good time to switch to the next topic. And we've already kind of veered towards it already, Zach. And this is about #JediPod, this big crossover event that Channel 1138 did a couple weeks ago. And it was, for myself, this was my first big trip I've ever done alone. I drove from here in Arizona all the way to Zach's place in Texas. And it was a fun drive. Nothing bad happened. It was safe. It was fine. But it was so special. Like I'm being inside the house of a podcast guy I've listened to for over 3 years. Like that's awesome. and then being with the hosts of the SWU podcast, Chris, Ben, Dominic. Like I've met Chris before, we've hung out once, but meeting Ben and Dominic, seeing how everyone was in person. I remember the first night, I said something along the lines of, "Wow, like it's so weird seeing the faces of those voices I've heard for many years." And man, Zach, didn't you quote that on your Facebook?
I think Ben might have.
Or Ben, yeah.
I think Ben might have. And you're right. It's definitely a different experience, and I'm so glad that you had that opportunity, because it felt very similarly to me when I went down to Mississippi in 2015. I didn't really know what to expect. I knew that I was going to see Ben, the guy that I've hosted a show with for a couple of years, and then I knew there were going to be some other guys along the way, people that I've talked to, maybe not as much. But, when we got together, it was like this bond almost. And Star Wars is that glue that bonds everybody together. And, as much as you may want to talk about sports, as much as you may want to talk about geography, talking about the landscape of Texas, the weather in Texas, whatever, the subject of Star Wars just keeps coming back around. That's what everybody wants to talk about. That's what everybody kind of fixates on. And then all of the other interests kind of spur off of that. And I think that's really cool, is that you always have a piece of conversation you can go back to. It keeps the conversation going. There's not this awkward silence going on because everybody has something to talk about. And, we experienced that in 2015 with The Force Awakens. Basically, our entire time we were going to different theaters and going to New Orleans to hang out for the day and stuff like that. We were always talking about Star Wars. And then we did it again in LA while we're waiting in line. People were cosplaying and stuff like that. And then we were talking about, what we might expect from the film, et cetera, et cetera. It was always Star Wars centered. And then it carried over again into Texas and just led to some really epic discussions on JediPod. It was a blast.
What was
Let me
tell you what was so interesting about this. It was our first podcast, the SWU reaction show. That was right after we saw the premiere of The Last Jedi.
Thursday night. Yeah, that Thursday night.
That was the first podcast I've ever done in person with other real life people around me. And
yep.
Man, it's such an incredible experience. It's weird. I have to make sure I'm trying not to yank the microphone away from Chris. I'm like, yeah, I want to talk. Yeah. It's so different from, say, like a Wastelands thing, because usually when we do a big crossover, it's usually managed by someone, like on Fan and Fraternity. Zach, you manage those big MC squared tables. And then for Wastelands, you have trivia where, like Sage or McMahon or someone, asks the questions. They have specific time limits, for trivia and whatnot. And so, but for this, and also with #JediPod, it was basically just yes, there were specific topics. We had a time limit, but it was basically just a free for all, talk about Star Wars, talk about The Last Jedi, go all out. And I thought that was really interesting, trying to look at people, give certain signals that I want to talk, and man, never had anything like that.
Yeah, the nonverbal communication is one of my favorite things about podcasting in person. During the reaction show, it was a lot easier because we could wave and point to people and stuff like that. That's a little bit harder to do in JediPod because we had a camera pointing on us, and so we couldn't do that quite as much. But the nonverbal aspect is really, really cool, because you're able to see when people are getting antsy in their seat. You're able to see when people are like motioning for the microphone, like gimme, 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 I got something I want to say. And then you can feed off of that energy, because you realize that there are other people around you that are just as passionate about this discussion as you are. And then everybody kind of bounces off of one another, and it leads to a really awesome conversation. And we did that with the rapid reaction. We did that with Jedi Pod, and it led to some really, really great discussions. Some critical reactions from people. I got some flack on Twitter from a couple of different people being like, I did not like Jedi Pod because you only had a couple of people on that actually enjoyed the film. And I was like, I enjoyed the film. I just also recognize it's not a 10 out of 10, you know, and maybe I could have expressed that a little bit better, I'll admit. But all in all, the numbers from The Last Jedi were astounding. When we went live on episode 8 news, I knew that we had.
You mean Jedi Pod?
What did I say?
You said numbers for The Last Jedi. You meant numbers for Jedi Pod?
Well, I mean, the numbers for Last Jedi are pretty impressive too. I mean, you got
$1 billion.
$1 billion worldwide. Those are pretty impressive numbers. But you're right. The numbers for Jedi Pod were also really great, because episode 8 news has over 500,000 people following it. And so we basically tapped into that amazing resource in order to produce a really awesome show. And combining the numbers that we had online with the numbers of people that we had on Mixlr, we never went below 100 listeners the whole night. There were always at least 100 people tuning into what we had to say, and we maxed out at like 1,000 or something.
Oh, yeah.
I guarantee you none of our podcasts have ever had 1,000 viewers / listeners at the same time before. So it was immense for all of those shows to get that kind of representation. And then the after the fact stuff just kind of continued. We had a total of about 30,000 unique views by the end of that first night, and then another 5,000 carried on that week after, which means 5,000 people took a look at Jedi Pod after it finished airing, which is also pretty impressive. And then I'm looking at the Podbean numbers for IPC, because that's where we uploaded it after the audio was finished. And so on the IPC Podbean, we are close to 500 downloads on that as well. So there have been almost 5,500 separate listens outside of that first night. And that just means that the discussion is continuing, and that people still want to listen and continue talking about this movie, which is fantastic. That's exactly what we were hoping to do when we did this show, was not just start the conversation, but find opportunities to continue them. And I feel like we achieved our goal.
Yeah. Eric, did you listen to Jedi Pod at all?
No. I won't lie. I didn't because well, first off, I don't have enough time. And when I did have time, it was before I went to go see The Last Jedi, so I was not.
Oh yeah, you saw it that Sunday, right?
Saturday.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds right. But yeah, we're about to move on soon. But yeah, that was a very fun trip, and I'm curious to see what we're gonna do with it for episode 9. Because I know there's gonna be, you're gonna call it #SoloPod for the solo thing. That's gonna be so cool. Coming in May 2018. Yep.
And I invested in a Logitech webcam, so we will have video capabilities at our disposal should we choose to utilize them. Location is roughly Toronto, because that's one of the rotations that we have not explored yet. So that is a very, very strong possibility up there with Mr. Dominic Jones finding a place to hang out and podcast from. But we're looking at continuing that trend of getting people together, because Sage and McMahon from Wastelands
too, right?
both live up in the Ontario area, not directly in downtown Toronto per se, but close enough that they could drive in if they wanted to. So if Ben and Chris and myself go and Dominic is there, We may also end up with Sage and McMahon, which would be a 6-person crossover at least.
And for clarity, I don't think I'm going to go. Well, I did go to Texas for Jedi Pod. I don't think I'm going to Solo Pod.
Yeah, I mean,
I'll probably go, honestly.
Driving to Texas
Eric.
compared to flying to Toronto. I mean, Eric, if you go, that makes it 7 people. So, there's a lot of potential still out there, and we're still really excited about where it's going because, every year we try and do something different with those shows. The first time we did it, The Force Awakens set a Channel 1138 record, or at least an IPC and SWU record for longest podcast ever aired. It was over 4 hours in length. And then when we did a Rogue One discussion out in California, we started rather late, and so it was our latest running podcast ever on Channel 1138. We ran so late that people on the East Coast were waking up to start their day and were listening to us live. That was really crazy. And then this one here, Jedi Pod, turned out to be the largest group discussion that we have ever had, the most people, because we had you, Jeff, from Backyard Watch. We had Mondo from Wastelands. We had SW people. We had IPC people. And then we also had the Next Level crew, which is a gaming YouTube channel with some friends of mine that live here in the Dallas area. And Parker, one of the hosts of Next Level, was also our facility host for Jedi Pod. He graciously opened up his home to him. So make sure you go find him on I think it's called Sketchy Parker or something like that.
I think that's his Instagram.
He does hand-drawn sketches on a live stream, and it's really, really cool. Let me see if I can find it. Sketchy Parker. I'm typing it in. So if you look on Facebook, you just type in such a sketchy stream with Parker, and you'll find it. So be sure to tune into that when you have an opportunity. And oh my, what is this that I'm getting from Mr. Hart? Oh, that's the Channel 1138 chat. I thought it was a personal chat. I'm like, Ben, what are you trying to say to me? No, that's a group chat. That's what I get for opening Facebook in the middle of a podcast. I'm sorry, guys. But yeah, be sure to go check him out and give him some support because he definitely supported us immensely during Jedi Pod. And we probably could not have pulled off what we pulled off without his help and support.
Yeah, lots of great stuff. We had Jedi Pod this past and last month to cap off a great year 2017.
How long ago was that? We did Jedi Pod on the 16th, so that was 16 days ago.
2.5. Okay, yeah, just over 2 weeks.
Yeah, just over 2 weeks. 16.
So we had Jedi
wow.
Pod then.
It does not feel like it's been 16 days. We've had Christmas and New Year's since then, and just you have a lot of stuff that happens in just such a short amount of time. It's crazy.
And then you have hashtag Solo Pod. I hope that's the official name. Coming
I believe
in May
Red
of
Cup
the new year. And then I don't think this is confirmed yet, but I have talked about this with Chris that for episode 9 we may do something in LA in 2019.
I have heard that if he gets an actual studio by then, which he's expecting to, then we'll actually be able to broadcast from a radio studio rather than somebody's home, which would be really, really cool.
And also, I was talking about this with him, it'd be really cool because this would be right after Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, the new part of Disneyland. After that'll be open. That would be so cool, dude.
We go from episode 9 to Galaxy's Edge and just hang out there for the whole day. That would be pretty awesome.
Man.
I've been to Disneyland, and I've been to that area that they are that they are renovating and turning it into Galaxy's Edge. It's a very, very decently sized chunk of land that they are converting. Because it used to be like a kiddie section that was all kind of Goofy and Mickey and Minnie themed
Thunder Ranch
type houses. And it was fun. It was okay, but it was definitely the least crowded of anywhere else in the park.
And now it's going to be the most crowded area.
Exactly. Hardly anybody went there. And I think that converting this into Galaxy's Edge is a perfect move because you're going to be able to draw even more people in than you did with the previous setup. And that's just Disneyland. Imagine how many people they're going to get in Florida. I'm just thinking out loud here, but This Galaxy's Edge is going to be a huge draw for not just Star Wars fans, but just movie fans and theme park fans. If they get this right, which I'm expecting they will, it's going to revolutionize the way people experience theme parks.
You guys did hear about that they're not putting like any like merchandising like areas in Galaxy's Edge, right?
Like no shops or anything like that?
Yeah, just food stuff.
Well, I think honestly that makes it feel a little bit more immersive because
that's exactly what they were saying.
The one complaint that I had about the other immersive experience I had was at California Adventure. They've got an entire section called Cars Land that makes you feel like you're in Radiator Springs from the movie Cars, and I literally felt like I was a car walking down Main Street when I went. You know, the Cozy Cone looked exactly to size. Flo's V8 Cafe looked exactly to size. You walk down the street to the very end, there's like this firehouse, and then there's like a ride that's going on behind it, but it doesn't distract from your view of Radiator Springs. I felt like I was in Radiator Springs, but my problem was every time I went someplace like Ramone's or what's her name? The Lizzie. Every time I went into one of those places, every time I went into some place like Luigi's, it didn't feel like a tire shop. It didn't feel like a body shop. Like they could have a temporary tattoo parlor in Ramon's House of Body Art. You know what I mean? But instead it was merchandise. And that kind of felt a little off to me. Like I understand that the bottom line is the bottom line. You got to make your buck. But for them to put the focus on being immersed in the Star Wars galaxy and Galaxy's Edge, I am actually totally okay with that. There are plenty of other gift shops that you can set up outside Galaxy's Edge, that you can set up in other parts of the park. People can still get their stuff without having to buy it in Galaxy's Edge. But that's just my feeling.
So let's move on to other great films or other great events.
I want to play a game with this one. I want to play a game with this one.
All right. Okay. Boy, here we go.
So it's about the Marvel movies, okay? All right, we're going to play 2 truths and a lie. All right? I hated Thor Ragnarok. I hated Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. I liked Spider-Man Homecoming.
2 truths and a lie?
Wait. Yeah, you know what? No, wait.
Or is it 2 lies? Or is it 2 lies and a truth?
I didn't like Spider-Man Homecoming. I hated all 3 Marvel movies this year. That didn't work out as well as I wanted to.
It kind of backfired on you a little bit because I'm like, okay, so which one of these did you like? Because you told me before the show started that there was only one of these 3 that you liked, and I'm like, okay, so if you didn't like this one and you did like this one, those are your 2 truths, and then which one is the lie?
The Spider-Man one, which I didn't. I'm sorry, I really have to go to the bathroom. I'll be honest.
Well, I guess we'll play this. I guess we'll play this game afterwards.
Yep, we'll be right back after these bathroom breaks. All right,
that's a lie. We will still be on air. Don't you worry. I got this. So, Eric.
Yes.
If that's your way of like hiding the P sound, it's not going to work.
No.
It's just going to sound like you got a waterfall going in the background. That's your backup singers.
No, Eric.
Okay, so
I
do remember him saying that there was a bit of controversy. Like he told me before the show started, you know, I'm gonna tell you right off the bat, Zach. He was like, I enjoyed only one of the 3 Marvel movies that came out this year, and I wanted to call him out on it. I wanted to give him like a rebuttal, and was like, excuse me, technically Logan is a Marvel movie, so there were 4. And I don't even know
one, dude.
I don't even know what his opinion of Logan is. I really enjoyed Logan, but honestly, I'm a little surprised that only one of the 3 Marvel movies resonated with him because, you know, to some degree, all 3 resonated with me in some capacity. You know, each one for its own different reasons. You know, I think each one had its own particular moment that was very different, very jarring, and very jaw-dropping in its own particular way. My jaw dropped in Guardians Volume 2 when Yondu made that sacrifice for Peter. Like
Me
that.
too.
That moment, my jaw was like, "Oh my gosh, what an amazing character
Mhm.
arc! That was brilliant." My jaw dropped in Spider-Man: Homecoming when he goes to when he gets ready for, what is it, Homecoming, and her dad opens the door and it turns out to be the guy that he's been fighting all this time. You know, that was like a really big, super awesome plot twist, and my jaw just dropped. I was like, wow, this is great storytelling.
We got to have a show called Zach's Jaw Drops. Zach's
doesn't-
just like, what?
It doesn't happen very often. I gotta admit, I didn't have a lot of jaw-dropping moments for a lot of movies that I saw this year, but you know, maybe there is like one particular jarring moment that stands out more than anything else. And if that jarring moment is positive, then I have a positive impression of the movie. Yeah. If that jarring element is negative, then maybe I come away with a negative impression of the movie.
So Star Wars The Last Jedi, negative for you?
I would say the jarring moment from The Last Jedi was when Luke tossed the lightsaber over his shoulder and walked away. That was very, very jarring to me, and I didn't enjoy that. And maybe that's why I came away from my first impression of it, because that first jarring moment was a negative jar instead of a positive one. I don't know. But, you know, the other jarring moment, the other jaw-dropping moment from Thor was when he wanted to play the hero and dramatically, you know, jump out of the window by breaking the glass, and then the ball bounces off of the window and comes back and hits him in the head. Like, they threw in some very, very timely humor that I was not expecting, and I laughed at that. I don't know if it was appropriate to laugh at that instance because they were trying to be like really dramatic, but
yeah,
you know, each of those movies had a jaw-dropping moment for me that I came away with a somewhat positive experience from. So Eric, I heard that Mr. Wall is back from his trip to the land beyond.
Yeah.
So I really hated. I guess you wouldn't say hated. I didn't like Thor Ragnarok or Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2.
Why not?
All right, same reason basically. Hero. It's like the like darker side of their adventure or whatever. It's supposed to be the darker side. Thor, it's Ragnarok. With Guardians of the Galaxy, it's the middle of the series, so it's normally the darker like one of it. Both are very, very, very far from that. Villains, worthless.
Eric.
Humor, tasteless. Korg's pretty good.
We just had Zach be like, "Oh man, Thor has."
I think it's the worst.
Comedic timing.
I think it's the worst. I think it's the actual worst. Korg's the only good part of the comedy in that movie.
Ouch.
Yeah. I don't understand why it has the best score on Rotten Tomatoes.
I see why it does. I mean, Ben and I discussed it on IPC not too long ago, and I think the thing that makes it so different is that it's set in space. And because nobody's really explored space, movies like Guardians and movies like Thor avail themselves to that kind of humor because nobody really truly knows what it's like in space. And so you can make these kinds of educated guesses all that you want. And movies like the Alien franchise, they assume the worst. Movies like Guardians and Thor, they try and assume the best. They try and think, hey, maybe even in bad situations, people still try and find the silver linings. Maybe this is how people really are. Like, you get so roaring drunk like the Valkyrie does that you literally cannot walk down your own ramp and you fall into a pile of garbage. I didn't necessarily have a problem with that because I don't know how a Valkyrie behaves. I don't know what their alcohol capacity is. I don't even know what my abilities would be like if I had too much to drink and I was trying to walk down a ramp. You know, that kind of juxtaposition didn't feel super jarring to me because I wasn't in any place where it felt relatable. With the first two Thor movies, you're set in places like England in the Dark World, and you're set in a place like New Mexico in the first one, and that attempt to blend space with Earth just almost never goes off very well. I think the only time it ever really went well was the first Avengers movie. The other times that you've tried to blend space with planet Earth, it just doesn't seem to fit right because you know Earth and you know what Earth is capable of because you've lived on Earth. But to make those kinds of suppositions about stuff that's extraterrestrial, you know, if they wanted to go that dark, I could see how it would turn out. But I also know that Marvel is intended to be more family-oriented, and putting those kinds of jokes in there helped make it an enjoyable experience for everyone.
E.T., the extraterrestrial.
You see. All right. So, all right. The problem is the fact that they try to adapt stuff that shouldn't be adapted in that way. So let's say this, okay? I like Ego the Living Planet, okay?
Mm-hmm.
I like him as a comic book character. Big face on an entire planet, okay? I don't like Kurt Russell being the embodiment of that. I don't like Kurt Russell being the father of Peter Quill. I think Jason of Spartax could have been his father, which is his actual dad in the comics, but they didn't put that in the movie. Okay? Hela. I like Hela as a character. Loki's daughter in the comics. Nope. Actually, Odin's daughter for some reason. All right? It's contrived. It's contrived for no reason.
I gotta disagree. Sibling rivalry is one of the biggest ones that you could have, and it was exemplified in the rivalry between Thor and Loki. And throwing a third person into the mix means that you had to have an enemy of my enemy is my friend situation, which brought Thor and Loki back together, even though they are complete opposites.
But you could have, as a filmmaker, someone could have just put her as Loki's daughter and then have it as maybe like an opposite reaction with Odin to Loki. Somewhat. And I don't know why it pisses me off so much, but it really does. Another thing.
Hold on. I want to go back to that real quick if I can.
Oh boy.
Not to make a countermeasure, but just to hear your thoughts on this, because in the way that the film was made, they gave closure to Anthony Hopkins's Odin.
Yes.
And
I like that.
And in giving him the closure, it explains why Hela is just now showing up on the scene. If they had made it to where she was Loki's daughter, how do you explain her sudden appearance in this third film? And it's Loki's, fourth or fifth appearance in the Marvel Cinematic Universe? Mm-hmm. How do you explain her just now showing up on the scene the way that they were able to do when they closed out Odin's character and said that it was his power that was keeping her at bay? Now that his power is no longer in force, that explains why she shows up. How do you bring her into this franchise if she's Loki's daughter? Because Loki's quest for power has been going on for years now, and if he wanted something so powerful like her, I think he would have utilized her years and years before this occurrence.
I don't know. They could have wrote it in such a way.
Like how? like that's what I'm saying is if he really. If they wanted to introduce her as his daughter, I would have brought her in during the first Avengers. They would have been unstoppable as a duo.
Oh man!
But they didn't bring her in until this particular point in the franchise. Maybe because they didn't feel like they could utilize her character. Maybe they didn't know whom to cast until much later. Whatever the case may be, but Loki's quest for power gave him control of Asgard at the end of the Dark World. He's got the power that he's been seeking. He's got that control that he's been wanting for, years now. And if he really wanted to maintain a grip on that, if he really wanted to expand beyond that, then it would make complete, absolute logical sense to introduce his daughter. But the fact that Loki has been so established in the MCU for so long without this introduction, I feel like the only other way that you could have explained that is if she wasn't actually his daughter. And I know that this is like a cyclical conversation, because in the comics she is, in the cinema she isn't. To me, it feels like if they wanted to introduce a villain that really, really hits home, it could have been a daughter, yes. But I don't think it takes away from their sense of urgency that they need to do something about this. There's still that sense of urgency. There's still that sense of immediacy with her being a sister, just as much as there would have been if she had been a daughter or a niece.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I just don't like that dynamic. I think that they could have written it that perhaps, like, she sees that Loki is becoming too powerful, then she's just like, let's just wipe it all away. That's what I thought was going to happen, but no. Another thing. I really like the Planet Hulk series, and I think they killed it. I think they actually, destroyed that entire, series. I think it didn't need to be in the movie. None of that needed to be in the movie. And another thing, I think they really wasted Jeff Goldblum as just a villain. I think they could have put him in something else. I think he could have been the villain of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2.
I think we should move on.
Because he is a Guardians of the Galaxy villain. Okay, but wait, hold up. So Spider-Man, I really like Spider-Man. The villain is by far the best villain that we have seen since Phase 2. No, I would say that, what's his name? I always forget his name. Who's the real villain in Winter Soldier? Alexander Pierce.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I think that he's actually the best villain because he's a regular guy who just flipped on everyone. Yeah, I would say that Vulture is probably the best villain of Phase 3 thus far. I really hope that that Eric Killmonger, aka Golden Jaguar, is a good villain in Black Panther. And I hope that Thanos overshadows him.
Yeah, Thanos had better live up to the hype, because they have given us some pretty solid villains the last few years. It's kind of been intermittent. It's been here and there. I will agree that the Vulture is probably my favorite villain of this year. Probably my favorite villain of the year, because it's such a personal note.
Yeah, he's got purpose. He wants to help his family. He doesn't want to just be bad for the sake of being bad.
I'm a bad guy.
Yeah. And in the end, he's somewhat of a good guy because he doesn't betray the trust of Peter Parker, because Peter Parker saved him, and he didn't say to the guy who's probably going to end up as Scorpion later on that Peter Parker is Spider-Man.
Okay, can I retract one of my comments before we go too further?
Oh boy.
Yes.
Go ahead, Zach.
Vulture is my favorite cinematic villain, but he's not my favorite villain from this year.
Ooh. Who's your favorite villain of this year, though?
My favorite villain of this year... hold on, I got to make sure that I get his name right, because I've forgotten it already.
Is it from a TV show?
It is from a TV show, actually. Yes.
I'm curious which TV show it is.
That TV show, my friend would... crap, that's not the one I was looking for. What did you do to me? It gave me... IMDb is not being my friend right now. I'm sorry. My favorite villain this year is none other than Billy Russo from.
Oh, yes. Yes.
I mean, Ben Barnes knocked it out of the freaking park, man. I thought he was kind of meh as Prince Caspian, and I thought his acting career was kind of coming to a close after what was that horrific experience, Seventh Son. Oh my gosh! After Seventh Son, I thought he was done. But then he shows up as Logan in Westworld, and then he shows up as Billy Russo in The Punisher, and oh my gosh, he crushed it on both roles. And so, I think Billy Russo is my favorite villain of the year, but my favorite cinematic villain is the Vulture.
Yeah, I would also say that he too has like a reason for why he wants to do what he does, which is something that Marvel villains are surely like abundant in, not having clear motives and just being evil for the sake of being evil. All right, let's move on to away from this because it's starting to irritate me a little bit.
Sorry about that.
I'm sorry.
There's a couple more things I want to talk about 2017, and we're going to do our ratings out of 10 for the whole year, and then we're going to look a little bit ahead to 2018, and then before we start wrapping up the show then. But for other things to talk about, let's talk a little bit about DC films. They had... Oh man, it's been a weird year for these guys. So they had one very successful film, Wonder Woman, released in 2017. And they also had what was a colossal failure, aka Justice League. Oh boy, I have not seen either of these films. I want to see Wonder Woman. But I'm wondering if you guys have seen him and what your impressions are about Wonder Woman and Justice League.
I'm still going strong on not seeing or hearing any spoilers on Justice League, which from what I've heard is that nothing really happens, nothing can be spoiled. It doesn't.
I heard when we were visiting in Texas for Jedi Pod, I remember hearing Zach and Ben mention Justice League and like how their IPC episode they were just trashing on the movie. Is that right?
So, it's about as close to trashing as you'll ever get on IPC. I'll give you that. We usually try and find the bright spots in a film. Like that's the P in IPC. We try and find the peaceful stuff. We try and find the middle ground. We try and find the redemptive qualities. The problem is Justice League just doesn't have a lot of them.
I can imagine that. You got rubber face Henry Cavill in it.
Here's the deal, though. I don't know if I can necessarily call it a colossal failure, because as far as I can tell, now that 2017 is finished, the yearly numbers for it still put it at number 10 in the top 10.
Does it actually?
It finished number 10 behind The Last Jedi, Beauty and the Beast, Wonder Woman, Guardians 2, Spider-Man Homecoming, It, Ragnarok, Despicable Me 3, and Logan. So it still had a respectable finish, even though people basically went to the movie so they could talk bad about it afterwards. But it had a respectable 2017. It finished with as many let me see. Yeah, it finished no, it didn't. It finished with almost as many top 10 finishes as Marvel did. Marvel had 4, 5, and 7 out of the 10 spots. But DC finished with number 3 with Wonder Woman and number 10 with Justice League. So not a terrible year financially, but as far as movies are concerned, the creation of those movies is concerned, there's definitely cause for worry. I will give you that.
Not really with Wonder Woman though. I thought Wonder Woman was
I think there's reason to be concerned with Wonder Woman, because after what they did with her in Justice League, now the question remains. I'm trying not to give too many spoilers.
I know.
But based on what we saw happen to her in Justice League, the question now pops up: what do you do with her in a sequel?
So you think Wonder Woman the film? Do you think Wonder Woman as an individual film is good, despite what they did in Justice League with her?
I think everything except for maybe the last 20 minutes. That's
understandable.
The last 15 to 20 minutes become really, really convoluted, and I get that they're trying to do it for the sake of having a plot twist, but the plot twist it didn't do anything for me. It didn't make me feel like, oh my God, this is a huge plot twist. This is insane. This is amazing. This is as big as, Darth Vader being Luke's father. I didn't have a freak out moment like that. I was like, oh, well, that's different.
I kind of called it before it even happened. I was just like, this is what's about to happen. Like that guy doesn't look that like trustworthy. Like he looks like a snake, and then he is a snake.
Yeah, it wasn't super, super predictable. I liked a lot of the other things that they did, particularly the chemistry between Gal Gadot and Chris Pine. Excellent casting, in my opinion. And I liked the adventures that they went on. I liked how they were very romantic and old school about their romance, which is fitting because the movie is set in World War I. A lot of the ways that they show Diana and Steve, it's Steve, right? Steve Trevor? Yeah. The way that they showed the bonding between Diana and Steve, they're dancing in the streets, and then they go up to the hotel room and they close the door, and then they cut scene out of it. It's implied that you know what happened, but it's very reminiscent of some of the older action films where that's all that they would show. And so I feel like some of the directing was actually very, very well done. I liked the musical score. I liked the fighting that they did in the No Man's Land. I thought that was really well done. There were a lot of elements that were very good about this film. But the last 20 minutes just kind of took it a completely different direction and just like way out of left field and disrupted the flow that the movie had been building up until then. And it was still a satisfying ending. It was the whole good triumphs over evil, happily ever after, somebody makes the ultimate sacrifice, blah, blah, blah. All of that was rather cliche, but still satisfactory, and still explains, her particular situation where she's at when Justice League comes around. It all, by the explicit definition, it all makes sense. It's just, it could have made sense better, in my opinion.
That makes sense.
This may be the one. I only have one DC Extended Universe film on Blu-ray, and that's Man of Steel. And I decided not to get Batman v Superman. I watched it in theaters and was like, but I think I'm gonna get Wonder Woman on Blu-ray. I want to watch it.
I've got it on Blu-ray. That's how I've seen it my second and third times is on Blu-ray. I did get Batman v Superman on Blu-ray, but only because I wanted to see the extended cut. Ben and I said, we're not watching the theatrical cut to review this movie. We have to watch the extended cut just so that it becomes
quick thoughts about the extended cut, Zach. How was it?
It didn't explain a whole lot more, but it made the movie somewhat tolerable.
Yeah.
Compared to the abomination the theatrical cut was, the extended cut, it did its job. It made it a bit longer, it explained a little bit more, and it made the movie a little bit more tolerable, but that's about it.
So, are there any other films you guys would like to touch upon? You mentioned Logan earlier.
Yes, Logan.
That came out in 2017, right?
Yes, it did. It came out early this year. To me, as out of all the movies that I saw this year, I feel like Logan has the highest watchability factor, and I feel like it's just one of the better made movies of the year. To me, it's the 2017 movie of the year. And that's movies, that's a year that also included The Last Jedi. That's a year that also included Guardians and Spider-Man. That's a year that also included The Greatest Showman, which I've heard is getting excellent reviews.
Oh, yeah.
But to me, Logan hit all the right notes. It did everything that I was hoping for. It did it in a way that was creative. It was action-packed. It was suspenseful. It had great emotion. Logan was probably my favorite movie of the year.
Same.
Wow.
I like.
I don't think anything tops it.
20th Century Fox knocked it out of the park with Logan. That was a beautiful, beautiful film. Absolutely loved it.
Wow.
And I would say probably the most underrated movie of the year would be Alien Covenant.
Ew. I'm sorry. I hate that movie.
Okay, we had a backyard watch.
I wasn't even
podcast
there for
about
that
this.
one, and I'm so mad about that.
we had a backyard watch podcast about this, I think in June or July or whatever, and I remember Eric just like pooping on this film.
No,
man.
I wasn't there for that one. I wasn't there at all.
Oh yeah, you.
And
this was the one where it was Chris. And
I'm
Trey
mad
that
because
was on.
Chris and Trey actually liked it.
I liked it too. You're in the
I
minority.
love those
in there.
movies. Wait,
Okay.
what?
I enjoyed
Yeah.
Alien and Aliens. The third one was kind of meh. I did not like Resurrection. Could not stand it.
I think Resurrection's better than 3, though. But it's too all over the place. I think they're both the worst. I think.
No. Here's the thing. With 3, you've got Pete Postlethwaite, and he's a phenomenal actor.
Don't know who that man is.
He was the leader of the expedition on the Lost World, Jurassic Park.
Oh, okay.
The bald guy.
Yeah.
You've got a young Pete Postlethwaite in
think he was in that
Alien
movie.
3, and he's one of the prisoners on the encampment, and he plays a smaller role, but it's very important. And honestly, I felt like it gave proper closure to Ripley's character. I thought if she's going to go out, let her go out in a freaking blaze of glory. I appreciated that. And then they resurrect her, they quote unquote resurrect her for Alien Resurrection. The whole film felt like just a giant way to
Cluster. It's a cluster.
to make a buck.
Yeah, it's a cluster. I think I like Resurrection because of how ridiculous it is. It makes no sense whatsoever.
Well, that's the
and
problem.
I really don't like the dog alien from 3.
I mean,
So
going
Back
back
to Covenant.
Going back to Covenant,
yeah,
I felt like Prometheus set a very decent stage. I like the idea that it's exploring the origins of humanity and that the origins of humanity can be horrific. I think that ties in rather well with the concept of the Alien franchise that, man is not the dominant species. There's that element in there. And I felt like Covenant helped bring that perspective back. This concept of, man goes exploring somewhere he shouldn't, he gets effed up because of it. That's basically what happens with the other Alien movies. And so it felt like a continuation of that with a different way of telling it. And while I do wish that they had done more exploration on the origins of humanity, I also can't count out the fact that this was probably one of Michael Fassbender's best roles. If I had to pick a Magneto, I would always pick Sir Ian McKellen. I don't necessarily care for Fassbender as a Magneto, and I really haven't seen him in a whole lot else. So for me, his portrayal of David and the android that's living on the planet, basically the only life form that's left on that planet aside from the aliens that he's growing, he's playing 2 different characters. He has to play off of himself in several interactions. Michael Fassbender is honestly the one that makes this movie for me. I felt like his portrayal in that film was award-worthy. He did a phenomenal job with what he was given.
Okay. The
Fine,
problem
say something,
isn't
Eric?
okay. So
It's
the problem
okay.
is
Time for the
not
rebuttal.
Michael Fassbender. Oh my god, I almost said Bember. Bender in any like sense of the word that I do not like this movie. I love Michael Fassbender. I think he's perfect in this movie. Okay. The problem is the other characters. The other characters are complete idiots, just like in Prometheus. And I don't like that he created the aliens. I think that, or rather the xenomorphs. I think that they should have just made the engineers make the xenomorphs. It would have just made a whole lot more sense, I guess.
Well, I mean, I only saw the movie once,
Yeah.
but from what I could tell, it kind of felt like the engineers had started the process and he was the one that just finished it. So
Or
if
did
the engineers had lived, they would have been the ones that created him, but because they didn't survive, it felt like David was carrying on their legacy by continuing their research, and then that created the xenomorphs.
All right, so I think I might get some flack for this, but I love the Alien versus Predator movies, okay? And with this movie, it just slaps it all away. And it really struck a nerve, because that's one of those movies that I'm very nostalgic about, because those are the reason I watched Alien versus Predator, and I'm like, oh, this is something else. So I watched the Predator movies, I watched the Alien movies, and it just like hurts me that they just got rid of the thing that like brought me into the series. I have the Alien versus Predator games. They're all gone now. Like, none of it's canon anymore, and Ridley Scott pisses me off. That's the end of that statement.
So, you have any more quick thoughts before we move on?
No.
Oh, Disaster Artist is pretty good.
The what?
Watch the last Disaster Artist. It's the movie about The Room.
Oh, yes. I have heard good things about that movie.
Yes, I just watched it last night. I think it is actually a really good movie. The Lego Batman movie was pretty good, in my opinion.
I haven't seen any of the Lego movies. Don't know if I plan to.
Really? You've never even seen the first?
Wow.
I didn't see the original because at the time I was working for a summer camp, and their way of calling everybody for big group time or to let them know it was time to transition between activities was they would get on the loudspeaker and play Everything Is Awesome as loud as they could throughout all 12 acres of the camp.
Sense.
And it just kind of made me mad hearing that literally like 3 times a day for weeks on end. I was like, I have no desire to watch this film. It's like on a sour note with me now because they played it that much, that incessantly.
That's incredibly understandable. I'm sorry.
Or
you know what? I think I have heard this story before, and I think I agree with you on every single level. Every time. I
just wasn't interested after that, and I was like, anything that comes after that, I just didn't know if I really wanted to see either. Don't get me wrong, I'm a fan of Batman. I played with Legos as a kid. Like, it sounds like a good combination. It just also doesn't sound like something that I would go sit in a movie theater for. I would Redbox it, I would Netflix it, but I wouldn't go watch it in the theater.
Mm-hmm.
So let's move on really quick to before we do our ratings. Just want to let you guys know, if anyone's listening on the Channel 1138 Mixler Live right now, I invite you to give your score rating out of 10 for the whole year of 2017. You may give a reason if you would like. That's up to you. And also, if you're listening on our YouTube video, just put it in the comments section, and just keep the discussion going. There are a lot of crazy things about this year, but we're going to a subject that may not be Zach's forte, and this is video games. And this, it may not look like it at a glance, but there are a lot of good video games that came out this year. Especially if we had a new video game console come out. That's freaking awesome. You have the Nintendo Switch that came out. I believe it was March.
Zach, is he
3rd.
lagging for you as well?
Yes,
Am I lagging?
Okay.
Lag. What are you doing?
Yeah, a lot of lag.
I thought it was on my end. So I
thought it was on my end. So I didn't say anything. All right, give it a second.
Can you hear me now? Testing.
Whoa. Ooh.
Do it again.
Oh dear.
Jeff.
Testing 1, 2, 3. The levels look
Uh-oh.
fine. What? And for now, we're gonna talk a little bit about video games, and there are a lot of great games that released this year. A lot of Japanese role-playing games, stuff like Persona 5, Nier Automata, Yakuza 0. Some great stuff from Japan. And then there's some good stuff, other good stuff as well, especially in the fact that there was a new video game console that came out. That was the Nintendo Switch. and that's selling really well, way better than the Wii U ever did for Nintendo. Thank the maker. And there's also some killer games. 2 potential Game of the Years in The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild and Super Mario Odyssey. So I unfortunately do not have a Switch. Eric, did you get one?
No.
Yeah, I wanted one, and I technically have the money for it, but considering I'm in college and I don't have a job, I'm probably not going to get it.
My friends at Next Level all got a Switch, and they did a live stream of Breath of the Wild for their very first episode of Next Level Gaming. And they actually did a crossover with IPC that night, which was pretty cool.
Oh, wow.
We set up the podcasting table in the dining area, which was a few feet away from the TV. And so they were streaming and doing stuff on Twitch, and then we were doing stuff on Mixler, each of us mentioning each other's programs and trying to contribute to a charitable donation, which was pretty cool. The visuals that I saw from Breath of the Wild on, when they were projecting onto their big screen TV were phenomenal. Like, easily some of the best gameplay and some of the best graphics I've ever seen from a Zelda game. And this is from a guy who swears by the Ocarina of Time. I really, really enjoyed what I saw. I didn't get a chance to play it because I was podcasting, I was hosting, that kind of thing. But from what I saw, it looked very, very enjoyable.
Nice. I would love to play it if I ever had the chance. And Mario as well. Super Mario Odyssey looks so good. Like, it's so jolly and fun. I love it. Like, and I love it. I love the game, and I haven't even played it. Like, what? But yeah, Eric, are there any other noteworthy things about video games that come to mind for you?
Horizon Zero Dawn's pretty good.
Oh God, Horizon! I'm chugging through on that game. I'm doing a lot of side quests. I've explored most, if not all, of the open world. And
you haven't beat the main story yet?
No, I'm working through it. Don't rush me, Eric. But man, it's such an immersive video game. It looks so good. Gameplay is addicting. It is fun, man. Horizon Zero Dawn. Do you have the expansion, the Frozen Wilds?
Nope.
I heard it's a pain in the butt to play, that it's really difficult.
Yeah.
What you gonna do, right?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, it's pretty big year for video games. A lot of independent games that released. I remember, yes, Eric.
I was going to say that a game that I really started playing the other day was Injustice 2, and I'm kind of liking it.
I started the story mode yesterday.
Me as well.
Good minds think alike, Eric.
Mm-hmm.
No, yeah, there's some good stuff in it. I mean, yeah, there's tropes in the plot, but what do you expect?
Yeah, I've already watched the movie, so I know exactly what happens, and I don't like some of the choices.
Movie? You mean you watch people play the game?
Yeah, the cinematic movies.
Yeah, same. But yeah, Injustice 2, I forgot that came out this year too.
Yeah. Destiny 2 was a disappointment. Battlefront 2 was a disappointment.
What do you think of Destiny 2, Eric? I've never played it.
The worst possible thing that they could have done, which is just make something that should have just been an expansion to the first game, and then say, "Hey, this is a new game. Buy it, $60, boy." Yeah, then they released it. Really makes me mad.
They're still releasing new content, and I see people crapping on the game. It's almost amazing.
It locks stuff that is supposed to be in the base game, and it locks certain trophies that people can acquire. I got the platinum for it. It's not like it's that hard to do or anything. It's more that they have to buy the expansion in order to like get it now.
I don't have a big opinion about that, really.
Yeah, I hate
trophies aren't that big of a deal.
I mean, I'm slowly becoming more of a completionist.
But yeah, Destiny 2. Have you played the new Call of Duty, Eric?
No, I hate Call of Duty.
I think it's weird that they just added microtransactions about like 2 weeks after release. I thought that was the weirdest thing ever.
I don't think that they were like it wasn't done all the way, and on top of that, Activision was trying to get a patent for a different type of microtransaction. Okay, so the thing about the microtransactions that are implemented right now is that they're cosmetic.
Well, I mean, Battlefront proves that it's not.
I mean, well, no, but wait, what? I'm so confused.
Are you talking about just one game or in general? Not all.
No, I'm
microtransactions
talking about in Call of Duty. It's
okay.
Yeah, the microtransactions are cosmetic for the most part, and stuff that will not help you really. But that could all change very soon because Activision.
Just like that.
Yeah, Activision has a patent now for a certain type of microtransaction that'll like screw with players and make them join a certain server because they don't have a certain gun, and then that person does have that certain gun. It's very complicated, and
it's really weird.
Yeah, I really don't like Activision.
With that being said, I'm really happy that the backlash has been occurring amongst the video game communities against this, because this is bad. It's horrible.
Yeah.
It's gross.
Yeah, I didn't like 2017 for video games.
All the good stuff's from Japan.
I don't play Japanese games.
I should play Japanese games. Heard lots of great things. I know, Zach, you're not as much of a gamer as us two, but do you have any thoughts about video games 2017, or just you personally, or in general?
I wish I had more of an opinion to voice on this sort of thing. I did not even get my first gaming console till I was 13, and that was a PlayStation 2. And that was mostly so I could play sport-type video games. And most of the sports video games have not really drastically improved all that much. Really, the only additions that they've made in the sports side of things is they added a new player mode in Madden, and they added WNBA teams to the NBA video games. So you can play as the LA Sparks or the Minnesota Lynx or whatever. But, you know, I mean, that's a great advancement for the WNBA and working for the WNBA. A lot of people got excited about that. But as far as great advancements go or great additions, I would think that Breath of the Wild is probably going to come out on top. There just wasn't a whole lot that's going to be able to compete with it as far as Game of the Year is concerned. Not in my opinion.
It won.
Yeah, the Game Awards awarded it Game of the Year.
Yeah, and I think that's doubly a testament to the game itself, but also just a testament to the kind of competition that it had. There just weren't enough quality games out there to really give it any kind of decent competition.
Yeah.
Not to me.
I would think that the only game that would give it competition is, and it was basically, Horizon Zero Dawn.
And Super Mario Odyssey.
I don't really put them two in the same category because one is just a straight up platformer, but with extra stuff.
So you guys ready to rate 2017 before we look forward to 2018?
Yep.
I'm going to give this one a 7.8 out of 10.
Oh.
This is... Yeah, for the year of 2017, I thought it was overall disappointing. You know, I mean, there's some great stuff, there's some bad stuff, but stuff that affected me personally, you know, whereas Star Wars or, you know, Mass Effect games or Star Wars games, and just, you know, looking at all these entertainment properties, I came out a lot disappointed. You know, like a lot of things, you know. Like, I think the good stuff is waiting to happen until either 2018 or 2019. And, you know, this year wasn't as much of a lame duck year for me as 2016 was, but it was still kind of disappointing for me nonetheless. You Eric Wall Jr., what's your rating for 2017?
5 out of 10.
Wow.
The worst. I like how we're rating a year.
It's kind of weird.
Especially with you, because I know that you're not like a big fan of like giving like a certain rating to stuff. And okay, so I don't like 2017 because 2017 was just a really big emotional trip for me. Like like a lot of family stuff and the Yoda returning in the Last Jedi, which so
we
I'm not going.
Mentioned that in this.
I mentioned it. Yet. Yeah, we haven't mentioned it in this episode, which I will start doing in every episode now because it's my favorite scene. I cry every time I watch that scene.
The music's really good.
It is. It's the Yoda theme.
Anyways, you were saying,
Zach, what are your thoughts on Yoda's scene?
I don't particularly care for his first appearance, but after the tree sets on fire and then he comes back, like he kind of does that fade in thing and starts talking to him the second time, I think he looks more like Yoda in that instance than he does in his first instance.
And to be fair, he didn't need to do that fade in, fade out.
No, he didn't need to, but they had to present him as a Force ghost, blah, blah, whatever. Like, I don't know. I think I kind of agree with Chris in the concept that it may have to do with the lighting. I think having the fire in the tree behind him kind of made him look more like a solid puppet than he did a translucent being. And it reminded me a bit more of Empire, that second appearance, but not the first one.
Okay, on a scale from Phantom Menace to Empire Strikes Back, how would you rate this one?
Probably Return of the Jedi.
Okay.
Not the best one that I've ever seen, not the worst one that I've ever seen. Yeah. Something looked and felt a little off, but his character was still there. His persona was still there, and that's what sold me on the fact.
Yeah, the Return of the Jedi one looks like that they had like half of the puppets still intact.
Ooh. Yep. Yeah. I agree.
Okay.
Wow.
Moving on. All right. 20. That's it for our show. No, I'm playing. Zach, what did you think of 2017?
Yeah. What's your rating, Mr. Zach Arnold?
Sorry, I was really curious about that Yoda scene though. With you.
No, you're good, man. I feel like the second half of the year finished better than the first half started, so it's kind of a tale of two halves of the year. First half of the year, I'd probably give it like a 6. Like, it really wasn't all that great. But the second half of the year included, Christmas, it included graduation, it included Jedi Pod, it included, just a lot of really cool things. And that part kind of helped it finish strong. So I would probably give it around an 8 or so. That really
nice.
Yeah, it really helped pick it back up, but there were still some negative elements, some things that really dragged, some things I felt burnt out on, et cetera, et cetera. So the 8 is just a very generous contribution to how well the second half of the year went, but not a very good testament to how the first half went.
I'm still laughing that we're rating a year.
We're rating the year 2017. I give it an 8 out of 10.
Only Backyard Watch. Only Backyard Watch could you
Actually,
get away with that.
The video game podcast I listened to, the Easy Allies podcast, they did a rating of overall video games in 2017, and they actually gave a score out of 10 for it. It was awesome.
How weird.
That's where I got it from.
How weird.
But yeah, Eric got the 5 out of 10. Jeff got the 7.8 out of 10. Zach has an 8 out of 10 for 2017.
I would say
year in review.
I would say that 2017 is more of a 4.7, but it's somewhat rounded off to a 5. So 5 is pushing it.
So we're not done with the show yet. We're still gonna chugging along on part 2 of the Backyard Watch podcast, and we're gonna look ahead to what's now this year. It is New Year's Day. The new year is here. Very first podcast that's on Channel 1138 in the year 2018. And yeah, let's talk a little bit about 2018 before we get to my favorite segment of the show, the hype factor. Wow, like, oh man, there's so much good stuff. I'm just looking at our show notes, and there's not much here, but there's a lot of good stuff in 2018. You know, there are, man, just the month of May, you got Solo, you got Avengers Infinity War. Man, I'm shell-shocked. Oh man, I forgot about Incredibles 2. Man, I'm so hyped for that, Eric.
I didn't write that down.
I know, I know, but it's still there though.
Oh wait, hold up.
Jurassic
I
World Fallen
want to put
Kingdom.
mine. Wait, hold up. No, wait, no, that's not what I wanted to put.
You can just mention it, dude.
No, wait, hold up. It's the principle of the thing. I think it's stylized as this. I just heard about it the other day. There we go.
No.
It's a Tommy Wiseau movie.
But yeah, I mean, are you guys excited? I know we mentioned #SoloPod coming this May to Toronto, with Solo a couple weeks after Infinity War. I'm impressed. I am so hyped for this. What do you guys think?
Well, I mean, I'm going to be part of it, so I'm obviously excited.
Yeah. I mean,
I have to be excited. I'm part of it.
all right. So, all right, let's start. I kind of want to be a part of the Solo pod as well, as long as like Jake could possibly, drive up to Toronto, and then I could just, go with him, because I'll be 18 at the time, so I'll be fine. Like I turned 18 in 58 days. That's really weird.
Wow, that's exciting. That's got to be one of the biggest things you're hyped about for this coming year, aren't you?
I'm not. I don't want to be an adult.
No, you do. You do.
I'm really looking forward to Solo, though. I just want to see how it is.
I am more
rumors...
excited about Infinity War than I am about Solo, but I'm excited about Solo Pod more than I am about Infinity War. So.
Oh yeah, I'm definitely more excited about Infinity War because I think that's just going to be a whole feels trip.
Yeah, just all the Avengers there.
It's going to be a
Thanos
culmination of 10
up.
years.
I get 10 years. Okay,
10 years
I guess,
to the month since
Iron Man.
Yeah.
And before you get Infinity War, we got Black Panther in February. I'm intrigued by that. It looks like a very fascinating film.
Yeah.
There's some other good superhero stuff. There won't be a Star Wars film in December. No Star Wars film in December. That'll be weird. So as a replacement, we have Aquaman.
I'm hopeful for this because James Wan is known to I was gonna say reboot, but I guess you could say revive a series. Like people actually like James Wan a lot, but Warner Brothers is gonna find a way to screw it up.
You never know, man. You never know.
Here's the deal. The stuff that I saw from Atlantis in Justice League was really exciting. Mm-hmm. I just wish I'd seen more of it. So
Did you like the bubble that they had to communicate with? I know about that.
I get why they did it. I don't know if I necessarily feel like that's the best way they could have done it. I think the way they did it with the other with the animated series where you just speak underwater. That's just something that Atlanteans can do. I think that probably would have been easier to accomplish.
People are firing fireworks.
I get why they did it though. It's fine. The choreography was one of the things I actually really enjoyed in Atlantis. And if they're going to do more of those well choreographed underwater fight scenes, then yes, that's definitely something to look forward to.
And then Eric mentioned this earlier. Venom Eric, what's your hype level on this?
I'm really hype about this. I guess the level would be like a 7 out of 10 because it's supposed to be coming out in October, and it doesn't seem like that they've gotten much done. And we're not really sure if this takes place in the MCU. They hinted that it might take place in the MCU. They never said it would. I like Tom Hardy. I like that if he does...
He's Venom, right?
Yeah. I like that if Venom is a part of the MCU, that will get Tom Hardy and the guy that looks like Tom Hardy from Spider-Man Homecoming in the MCU.
Man. And then I don't know how I feel about Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom.
I think they're making steps in the right direction.
It's a good trailer. I love the trailer for it.
I'm hopeful, but it also gives me a lot of Lost World vibes. So
yeah,
I guess
just on Isla Nublar instead of Sorna.
Yeah. It's, I don't know. I'm hopeful. I liked a lot of the stuff that they did with the first movie, and Jeff Goldblum's going to be in it. So you got the Goldblum factor involved, which is pretty cool.
That's real. I love that. That's really cool.
I heard a rumor that there might be another cameo, but I'm not going to say that out loud because I think the validity of this rumor is pretty good.
We'll see. Yeah, I think I know which one you're speaking of.
Yeah,
but
I think it was like a big rumor a while ago.
Yeah. It could be.
So
did you guys hear that? I wanna point this out real quick. Can you guys hear that? The people that are yelling outside and firing fireworks?
I'm not hearing much of it.
Okay. All right. Well, whatever. Our state just technically legalized fireworks to be bought and sold.
How funny.
Yes. And now everyone's using them. It's exactly what I thought was going to happen. And they did it 2 days before. Sorry.
You guys have any more thoughts about the 2018 films before we move on?
I'm excited for Infinity War. I'm excited for Incredibles 2. That's some big time nostalgia right there. And I'm excited for Solo Pod. There's going to be other stuff along the way that's going to surprise me the way some other movies did probably, but that's the beauty of how many movies get produced each year is there's always going to be something that sticks out to you more than something else. And I think that's one of the things I'm most excited about for 2018 is just figuring out which movie's going to do that for me.
I hope that Michael B. Jordan is a really good villain in
Black Panther.
Yeah, in Black Panther as Killmonger. Because he does have, like, not a complicated backstory, but it's a really good backstory, which is that his father, I believe, was disgraced by Black Panther's father, and because Killmonger, which is Michael B. Jordan, his father was helping Claw, which is Andy Serkis's character. But I don't know how they'll put that, which, to be fair, they could just kind of put it in a certain way, or they could just make it that he was still helping Claw, and he was disgraced and then banished.
Man, that's really
but he
cool,
was
Eric.
He was forced to work with Claw. I think he was like held hostage more than anything. Yeah.
Also, the other thing to look forward to in 2018 is everyone here at Channel 1138 is probably still going to discuss Star Wars The Last Jedi throughout the entire year.
The what?
That is I will bet you we will still be talking about that movie.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I mean,
about Star Wars The Last Jedi.
The SWU will, I can promise you that.
I think they did last week.
I know Wastelands will. Oh, it's gonna continue. It's not just for them. It's gonna be a very ongoing thing.
Yes.
But I know Wastelands probably will. I have a feeling Hyperspace may. IPC is still working on its schedule, but it's going to be a pretty fixed schedule. So if we do talk about The Last Jedi, it'll be in casual reference. It won't be a direct discussion. We are currently finishing up our 2018 schedule. I remember last summer we talked about how everything through the rest of 2017 is booked, et cetera, et cetera. Well, guess what, folks? Pretty much all of 2018 is going to be booked on IPC. We have a lot of stuff to talk about this year, and it's pretty much full to the brim already. So there's something to look forward to.
It's a lot of great things, and let's go through video games real quick. There are some good games that are for sure coming out this year, or are expected or predicted to come out this year. Those expected or predicted to come out in 2018 is Kingdom Hearts 3 and The Last of Us Part 2. And I mean, we haven't had a full, like, Kingdom Hearts 2 released, I think, 2005, 2004, 2005. So we haven't had, I mean, yeah, there's been spin-offs and mobile games and handheld games for Kingdom Hearts, and this is the crossover between Final Fantasy and Disney properties. But I am so hyped for Kingdom Hearts 3. Like, we know for sure it'll have Toy Story, and it'll be a Toy Story set in it. It's gonna be so cool. Mickey Mouse, Goofy, Donald Duck, Sora, they're all coming back, and I'm sure there'll be plenty of references to Final Fantasy. And I am so intrigued. There's been rumors for years that they would do Marvel stuff or Star Wars stuff. I don't know. I'm bad at predictions with this. I don't think they'll do it, but it would be really cool if
they'll
did.
do
I want
it.
them to.
Especially because Square Enix is making the Avengers game too, right? Are they also making the Avengers game?
Are. They're making the Avengers and possibly Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, I knew the Guardians of the Galaxy one was for sure, but I wasn't sure if the Avengers game was Square Enix. That's the one that the trailer was like Hulk, and they did release that trailer, right?
Yeah, that was about a year ago.
Yeah. All right.
It was basically, hey, we're making an Avengers game.
Yeah,
I look forward to it.
I'd say that Avengers is probably more likely than Star Wars. Or rather, Marvel is more likely than Star Wars.
That'd be really cool.
Especially because EA.
So there's other good stuff. There's God of War coming out on PlayStation 4 this year.
Mm-hmm.
It's a new look at Kratos' life on this series that's been going on for 12 years. And I love it. It's The Last of Us God of War. Emotional story. Kratos has a son. It's so freaking cool. I'm so hyped for this.
I'd say that it kind of reminds me more of Logan.
Really?
Like God of War. Yeah. Have you seen Logan?
I have not.
Jeff, I know what your hype factor should be.
What do you think it should be?
Go buy Logan. Or get it from your friend, Long John Silver.
Why should I get it, Eric?
Because it's a really good movie. It's both mine and Zach's pick for the best
2017 movie of the year. Yeah.
Yep.
It's got.
I'm worried it's too dark.
It's got great action. It's got great characters. It's got some very timely comedy that helps relieve some of that darkness. It's very gritty. It feels very real, very true to life, and yet still integrates the comics in a respectable fashion. And it tells a really, really compelling story that keeps you engaged from start to finish.
Yes.
I think I'll get that when I go to Best Buy. All right.
It's worth it, man. They've got this one version that's called the noir version, which lets you watch the whole movie in black and white. It makes it feel like an old Western.
Or you could just get a regular version and then turn off the colors.
If you wanted to.
I'll definitely pick it up then, yeah.
I mean, it just kind of came with the Blu-ray. I didn't get it because it had the noir version, but I watched it anyway.
I think you also said that when you got it, if I remember correctly, that you were just like, well, can't you just, turn off?
Can't you just adjust the tint?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you feasibly could, and it would actually be a little easier on the eyes because some of the nighttime scenes get really, really dark and shadowy. So if you did it manually, you'd be able to adjust the brightness on your TV as well and be able to see it better. But it's still a really interesting way to watch it because there's this whole underlying theme of an old Western. Like it kind of has that old Western feel to it throughout the movie, but it got like a modern spin on it. And then they take it to the next
I wouldn't say that it's too dark either.
Oh, it's dark.
I wouldn't say that it's that dark though.
Okay, it's not 50 Shades dark. It's not Poltergeist dark, but it's got some dark elements.
Yeah, that's not wrong at all. I mean, it's just how the universe is at the time. I mean, it needs to be dark.
Yeah, it conveys the sense of destitution that mutants feel because of the events of things like Days of Future Past and Apocalypse.
Yep.
So speaking of old westerns, there's a video game coming out this year that I'm super stoked for, and it's Red Dead Redemption 2. I recently finished the first Red Dead Redemption, and oh man, is that game incredible!
We talked about that last week, right? That you were either thinking about buying it or you did buy it. Correct.
No, I got Red Dead Redemption about a year ago.
Oh, then I don't know who the hell I was talking to about it. I think it might have been my cousin.
Nice. But yeah, that game's supposed to come out this year, and it's Rockstar Games creating it. They're really good at what they do.
Can't wait to see how they screw it up, though, because
Eric,
it's Take-Two. I'm sorry. I'm very critical.
I heard something about loot boxes and stuff. I'm like, oh...
Yeah. I remember a while ago, I had an article about Take-Two saying, loot boxes are like the way to go with video games. And I think I remember talking about it on here.
Makes sense from a business perspective. Doesn't mean I like it.
I don't like it.
But guys, we have an open world Spider-Man game coming out this year.
Mm-hmm.
What? Spider-Man, dude. Where you get to face off against Rhino. That's confirmed, and other villains.
Yep.
I forgot which ones. My apologies.
Kingpin is in it. Again, that's in the trailers. I forget who else is in it. I know that it's not just them. I forget the one guy's name though. Yeah, looks good.
Oh wow. It looks fantastic. I'm so hyped to play it. This is the spiritual successor to Arkham that we need. To the Batman Arkham series, and yeah, I'm super hyped for it. And it's also a pretty big year for Channel 1138. As we've mentioned throughout the show, there's #SoloPod. IPC has a very big schedule. SWU will be talking a lot about The Last Jedi and Solo and so many great Star Wars things going on. We'll continue broadcasting throughout the year, talking about who the heck knows what. I don't know. Is there any other Channel 1138 things that we can say that I know nothing about?
I'm burning the entire place to the ground.
We are working on recruiting some new talent in an effort to try and expand the program listing that we've got on Channel 1138. It's not anything set in stone, but by the end of this year, we are hoping to have some new programs on the show to add a little bit more diversity to the group.
That reminds me, I wanted to talk to you about it. I don't want you to think that this is about a trash limo or anything, but it's something about the channel. That's it.
Okay.
We'll talk about it later.
Sounds
like
still
a plan.
on the air, Eric.
Yeah, I know.
So ambiguous, so mysterious. What do
Yeah,
these guys
ooh.
talk about after the show is over?
It's
Well-
just radio static.
You'll never know, will you?
Yes.
Ooh.
But man, there's good stuff coming in 2018. Great films, great games. Are there any TV shows coming?
Jessica Jones season 2, I know for sure, is coming out in the spring. So I'm pretty excited about that. Keep up with the Marvel universe.
Agents of
March.
Shield's continuing
God.
season 5.
That's how you know that I'm starting to lose my voice. It just cracked. So yeah, I think March, correct?
I believe
the
so.
Jessica Jones
I believe so.
season 2, yeah. And then when is Daredevil? Whoa!
Daredevil
I need to go to
season-
sleep. I need to go to sleep. Let's let's do this.
It's
Okay.
all right, buddy. We're almost done.
I know.
I think Daredevil's in the fall, but I don't know for certain.
Well,
Nice.
okay. So I would think it's probably going to be in August, like the Defenders, right?
It's possible. It depends on how much filming they've got wrapped up and what they want to
Yeah.
put in the fall/winter slate. Because
Wait, that reminds me.
Luke Cage season 2 is still an option as well.
Yeah, I'm thinking that might be. Or you know what? That definitely already did start filming.
Yeah,
It might go Jessica Jones, Luke Cage,
Daredevil.
then Daredevil 3, and
Yep.
then never do Iron Fist again.
Oh boy.
So yeah, it's gonna be pretty jam-packed 2018, including #SoloPod,
Ooh.
big channel 1138 crossover that'll have Zach and all the guys from the SWU, all the guys, well, some of the guys from Star Wars Wastelands, and potentially Jake Damon and Eric Wall.
Potentially.
That'll be cool. We get some more Backyard Watch representation. I was very proud representing the show for Jedi Pod, and I hope to do it again in 2 years when we do it in LA. But yeah, that'd be cool if you could do it, Eric.
Mm-hmm.
So
I'll probably do the LA trip too, as well.
nice.
Too
So
as
now-
well.
Yeah, see, that's why you want to be an adult. Adults can travel, Eric.
That is true.
So now it's time for everybody's favorite segment on the Backyard Watch. We've had to wait 2.5 hours to get to it tonight, or just half an hour if you're watching the Part 2 archive on YouTube. And we got it. It's the one, the only, the thing that gets you hyped. It's the hype factor.
I was in the middle of a
This is
yawn
what-
on that one.
This is what we're all so hyped about, what we are excited, what we are ecstatic for whether the near future or the far future. And I'll give mine first. There's some. We were just talking about how great 2018 is going to be. This May is my hype factor. You got Solo. You're going to see a new Star Wars film that may be the most unique piece of awesomeness ever. I'm using hyperbole. And then right after Infinity War, which looks friggin' fantastic.
Wait. Did you say you were using hyperbole?
All right, that's it. Good night.
With that, you're not going to. Now Eric's going to give his hype factor instead of you. Eric Wall Jr., what is your hype factor?
I bought some Legos.
What kind of Legos, dude?
Oh, I bought the TIE Striker. I'm looking forward to building that.
Dude.
And some newer things, I guess.
Legos and Star Wars. Nothing can go wrong with that. There's
That's
some
not wrong.
great stuff within that.
Yeah, gonna display it right next to the U-Wing, probably.
Dude.
Yeah.
It's awesome. Zach Arnold, what is your hype factor?
I just recently bought Battlefront 2 on the PS4, and I know that not a lot of people are crazy about the game itself, but it's a momentous deal for me because it's
Dude, we gotta play it.
it's
the
the-
three of us.
it is the
man.
first game that I have ever bought for both systems. So I've got both an Xbox One and a PS4, and I considered getting Rocket League for the PS4 because I've got some friends that I can play that with on there as well.
We also
I
have
play it.
Rocket League.
It would be, and I probably will eventually. But as of right now, the history that I made is Battlefront 2 signifies the first ever game that I've bought for both the 4 and the 1.
Dude, we gotta play together, the three of us, man. It'd be so cool.
We will be an unstoppable force. We will destroy our enemies. We will taste the blood of our victims. Okay, that turned.
On that note, this has been
good night.
This has been the Backyard Watch podcast. We are a bunch of awesome people who talk about Star Wars, talk about geeky things, talk about whatever pleases us. We air live every single Monday night at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific on channel 1138, where you can find at channel1138.com. Or you can, there's a link there to our Mixler page where you can listen to our shows. We got a bunch of great shows on the station, and it's cool. We're going to see a comeback of some of these shows as the new year comes for channel 1138. I'm super stoked for that. And also, sometime soon, this will be, for those of you listening live, this will be, if you missed any segment of our show, we will have it on the channel 1138 YouTube channel, where our archived episodes are located for the Backyard Watch podcast. And as far as I know, I think it's the only thing that's really been on the YouTube. I mean, hoping we can get more activity there. But we are happy to contribute to the channel 1138 YouTube and support the network that hosts us, and we're very thankful to everyone here. A lot. I know. The only reason why I even did Jedi Pod was because I know these people through podcasts. And it's incredible meeting some of y'all in person. So Eric, I'm gonna throw a spitball at you. What are all the social medias for Backyard Watch?
Facebook, it's Backyard Watch. Instagram, Instagram and Twitter, it's BYW Pod. And then, of course, you can check us out on YouTube, which is channel 1138, which is the channel's entire YouTube page.
Yeah, and I mean, there's if you can just go on the page right now, there are some other stuff that we've done in the past. We've done little Star Wars discussions and news segments and the old version of Backyard Watch where we all just hung out. Yeah, some reviews as well. There's a good review of the Thrawn novel. That was a good discussion there.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, stay here. Go to channel 1138 Mixler just to see all our other shows: Star Wars Underworld, Star Wars Wastelands, the IPC podcast, and Zach Arnold. Where can we hear you in the future?
I think IPC
where can we find you?
I think IPC is returning either this Friday or next, and I think Fandom Fraternity is back next week as well. You can also find me personally on Twitter and Instagram at ZAC_DFW.
Nice, and thank you for being a guest on the show today. I think you've been with us a couple times before, right, Zach?
I think this is my second. I think this is my second time, but I always enjoy whatever opportunities I get to be on. Thanks for having me. It was great getting to reflect on 2017 and look forward to the year ahead.
Oh man, so you have any more final thoughts before we go, Eric?
No.
Meh.
Nah. Yeah, that's the final thought. Nah.
Thank you guys for listening to this two-parter Backyard Watch, and may the Force be with you. See you on Monday.
Woo. 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 Woo.